Hello and welcome everybody to the Red Rover Republic podcast. My name is Millie. This is my co-host Unrealness. What's up? Today we're going to be going over the indictments of James Comey, John Bolton, Letitia James, and just a few more breaking news clips for the weekend. I want to start off really quick with the indictment of Letitia. New York State Attorney General indicted. U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia announced today a federal grand jury returned an indictment charging New York State Attorney General Letitia James with bank fraud under 18 U.S. Code Section 1344, false statements to a financial institution under Title 18 U.S. Code 1014. No one is above the law. The charges, as alleged in this case, represent international criminal acts and tremendous breaches of the public trust, said U.S. Attorney Halligan. The facts and the law in this case are clear when we will continue to follow them to ensure that justice is served. If convicted, Letitia James faces penalties including up to 30 years in prison per count, up to $1 million in fines on each count, and forfeiture. Actual sentences for federal crimes are typically less than maximum penalties. A federal district judge will determine any sentence after considering the U.S. sentencing guidelines and other statutory factors. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think it's just poetic, right? It's essentially a lot of this has to do with what Letitia went after Trump for. I think that much like when we get into the Bolton topic, that this was exactly what I would expect. A lot of people accuse those of wrongdoing or accuse those of what you're doing. And this is exactly what I expect. I cannot believe that she, with a straight face, campaigned on this. She campaigned going after Trump while knowing that she was doing the exact thing she was accusing Trump of doing.
Absolutely. And speaking of which, we have some clips specifically of Letitia James going after Donald Trump and campaigning going after Donald Trump. So let's watch that real quick.
The President of the United States has complained that I'm engaging in some sort of political witch hunt, that I've got some personal vendetta against him, that I campaigned against him. That is not true.
This illegitimate president who sits in the White House. That president, because he's not my president, he's an illegitimate president. His days are numbered. His days are numbered.
We've got to get ready to mobilize, and we've got to get ready to agitate and irritate until victory is won, but more importantly, until Trump is defeated. We will all rise up and resist this man, and ultimately we'll bring him down. This illegitimate president, I'm going to give you the same level of respect that you gave to President Obama, and that is absolutely no respect at all.
Donald Trump has got to go. Hey, hey.
Ho, ho! Donald Trump has got to go. Hey, hey! Ho, ho!
The days of Donald Trump are numbered. Lock him up. Lock him up. Lock him up. Lock him up. Lock him up.
That is not true.
So
I just can't believe. I can't believe that she does she not know that the internet is forever? Does she not know that these clips are easily pulled, and that she obviously ran on locking Donald Trump up? Like, it's clear as day. That was her entire campaign to get to her position, was to go after Donald Trump. He's illegitimate, and everything else in between. I can't believe she thought that was a good idea to go on live television and to say that she did not go after Donald Trump for political reasons.
Well, I mean, imagine that you're facing an indictment from a prosecutor that campaigned openly to become the attorney general on locking you up. So going into the indictment that this is malicious prosecution, specifically from the prosecutor that is bringing the charges against you. And it wasn't just the 34 felonies that we're talking about. This is also the statement of financial conditions case, where they were specifically going after Donald Trump for his appraisal and his opinion of what his property was worth, which you just saw that kind of fall apart in the appeals court process.
Remind me, what were they appraising his property for? It was something ridiculous, like $18 million out at all. I'm pretty sure somewhere around there.
It was a boatload of money, but at the end of the day, Deutsche Bank said, one, that they didn't see any harm done, two, that they would have given him the same interest rate regardless of whether or not it was appraised at the value that he thought it was versus the appraisal that they thought it was worth. It would have been the same interest rate, so there was no harm done there. but also that they would still do business with him again. So there's no victim in that case. Letitia James puts herself down as the actual plaintiff in that case. But interesting enough, we find out along with this indictment that she's actually hosting a fugitive at her house in Norfolk. The niece that she has living there is actually fleeing charges that she's supposed to be I think it's probation that
For
she's
years,
on.
right? What year was this? 2020, I believe, is how long she's been housed here, right? Free.
Yes. The tenant living in Virginia, the Virginia house at the center of the New York Attorney General Letitia James federal indictment, is a fugitive from justice. James had reportedly allowed her grandniece, Nakia Thompson, along with Thompson's 3 children, to live in a 3-bedroom property in Norfolk since 2020. Now, in an embarrassing twist for Donald Trump's nemesis, the Daily Mail has discovered that Thompson is officially listed as an absconder, who is being sought by authorities in North Carolina for failing to finish her probation. Ms. Thompson was sentenced to probation for misdemeanor convictions for assault and battery and trespassing, and has willfully avoided probation supervisor. Keith Akiri, communications director for the North Carolina Department of Corrections, told the Daily Mail. So
Well,
she's been avoiding this for a while.
she
now.
has. And Letitia James being in the position that she's in, she has to be fully aware of this individual in her house that she's been, housing since 2020. For her to, I would love to hear for her excuse. I can't wait to hear her excuse as to, I didn't know. I didn't know I was housing a fugitive for 5 years. And I didn't know, despite the fact I wasn't charging this person rent. There was no any type of legal documentation to prove that this person lived here. No, she knew. She knew that she was housing a fugitive. I can't wait to hear her spin on this.
It'll be interesting to see the arguments that she's going to lay out in court. I really hope she doesn't try to use malicious prosecution. That would be absolutely funny. So along with this came more indictments. So we're going to run into the James Comey indictment. Now, this one is actually funny because James Comey turns around and starts suing Kash Patel for the things that they said in connection with his indictment. Because it might harm his book sales. But I just want to make it really clear that he was already referred for indictment by Horowitz after they dropped the Horowitz report. So right here.
Yeah, what year was that?
2019.
19, right.
Mm-hmm. So this is from the House of Representatives, August 30th of 2019. Dear Mr. Chairman, we request that you convene a hearing as soon as possible with the Department of Justice Inspector General Michael Horowitz to examine the Office of Inspector General recent report that found former Federal Bureau of Investigation Director James Comey, the OIG, has found Comey leaked sensitive FBI materials to numerous individuals after he was fired. Comey made one unauthorized disclosure of sensitive investigative information involving President specifically in hopes of achieving a personally desired outcome. The appointment of the special counsel, because Comey's complication and dissemination of sensitive FBI information led to 2+ years of political turmoil and partisan attacks on the president, the OIG report demands congressional attention. The Inspector General Horowitz found that Comey's conduct set a dangerous example for over 35,000 current FBI employees, and that many thousands more former FBI employees who similarly have access to or knowledge of non-public information. Comey's own closest FBI advisors admitted that the OIG found Comey's conduct incredulous. Horowitz reported that Comey's senior FBI staff used words surprised, stunned, and shocked in disappointment when they learned Comey leaked sensitive FBI materials to the media. The OIG found that Comey's conduct was so troubling that it referred the case to the Department of Justice for criminal prosecution. We can think of no other FBI director who has ever criminally been referred for federal prosecution. And that's from the OIG. So imagine imagine. And this is why the Pentagon has locked down their press briefings. This is why the White House has started to be a lot stricter on the press when inviting people into sensitive areas that could have sensitive material, is that these media press reporters are going to people who have clearance and trying to get them to give them sensitive, top secret, classified information.
Yeah, I think it's very clear. And Comey, I mean, people like to make this argument that Comey being under Donald Trump, and these individuals happen to be under Donald Trump, are aligned with him, especially during his first presidency. No, that's not how it works. I think it's very obviously clear that Donald Trump was being sabotaged from the very beginning. Actually, before the very beginning, as a matter of fact. When you look back during the Obama and the FBI and the investigation, or I'm sorry, the fake investigation that led to a bunch of illegitimate documents that was trying to connect Donald Trump to Russia. Yeah, it's very clear. It's very clear there's something deeper going on in these agencies. It's something very, very nefarious, I believe.
Well, and again, with the Obama administration, this was the first time that we've ever seen an administration use something like the Patriot Act, which again is for domestic terrorists. It is to track down domestic terrorists to kind of stop those kinds of incidents from happening. But this is being weaponized in a FISA court to spy on political opposition during an election. I can think of nothing that is more corrupt than that. This is the kind of stuff that the KGB does in Russia. They spy on their political opponents, then they try to lock up their political opponents after the fact. So it's egregious that you saw this not only under the Obama administration, but under the Biden administration as well. We saw this with Jack Smith, finding out that he is spying on 7 congressional members of our legislative branch. This is corruption that we've never seen before in our country. If they thought that Watergate was crazy, this blows Watergate out of the water.
Yeah, this is a classic. You show me the man, I'll show you the crime. If you look into anyone's past, especially someone who's been established for so long, congressional members, particularly, you're gonna find maybe they didn't pay the taxes here, or they missed a payment on this here there. They're obviously, you look into anyone long enough, you're gonna find something, and that's what Jack Smith was hoping to find, is just any tiny thing in order to get some type of indictment. Exactly.
It's a fishing expedition.
Yeah, we've never seen anything like this. Yeah, it makes Watergate look like child's play. It really does.
Yeah. And so, again, this is exactly why Pete Hegseth has started locking down the Pentagon. No more free roaming press in the halls, because I guarantee you they're over there knocking on people's doors, trying to wheel and deal so that they can get people to leak information for them. And at some point, I think that the press kind of needs to be held responsible for the fact that they're basically soliciting people for classified information.
And it makes you wonder what they're doing in order to obtain this information. What is the process? What are they offering these individuals to leak information?
Cash.
It could be money. It could be money, but also it could be something a little bit more darker. But that's just getting into a conspiracy side of things, and I'm not trying to delve into that. But obviously, it's I scratch your back, you scratch mine thing, and we don't know exactly what that is, and it's impossible for us to know. So,
absolutely. So the heels of the Comey indictment also wielded an almost comical lawsuit. James Comey has decided to sue Kash Patel over this indictment becoming public.
Ridiculous.
And I'm just going to read his statement really quick, his lawsuit. Defendants are U.S. government employees and plaintiff is ex-U.S. government employee. There was an ongoing legal dispute between the defendants and the plaintiff. Defendants were able to secure an indictment for the plaintiff for the legal dispute, September 25 of 2025. On the same next day, defendants used that indictment to slander and libel the plaintiff with completely unrelated U.S. crimes to millions of followers on social media and news channels, harming plaintiff's book selling business. Oh no, this might hurt some book sales in the future. And reputation. Defendants slandered the plaintiff without legal basis and used unrelated indictment to convince their followers. Plaintiff is harassed and abused as a result. Libel statements published on Truth Social by defendants and on X by defendant 1 on September 25 of 2025. Attachments included. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, you cannot indict James Comey because he's in the middle of selling a book. It's going to hurt his book sales.
If anything, this is gonna boost his book sales. Everyone's gonna want to read this thing. I mean, listen, and also especially considering the timing. I mean, if he's arguing that this is gonna hurt book sales, I think this is obviously an attempt to silence our FBI director Kash Patel, which is absolutely silly. Listen, I'm sure everyone's heard this. All right, there's no real such thing as like bad publicity, right? I'm gonna probably read this damn book. I had no intentions of reading this book, but now I think I'm actually going to purchase this book. I'm gonna try to find it in the cheapest way possible, but I'm 100% reading this thing now. But yeah,
Okay.
I think that book sales are going to be through the roof. People who don't care about this man or really even care about the situation are going to be more intrigued now than ever. His sales are going to be insane, and which is going to be great because he's going to need some commissary money. He's going to need some money to buy his Cheetos.
I guarantee he's going to be writing a new book in prison. But
100%.
I mean,
100%.
these people do need to be held accountable. They did some of the most corrupt things that our country has ever seen. They have disgraced the office, to which people now do not trust federal agencies anymore because of the amount of blatant bias that was being executed from these agencies. So I'm going to go roll into the next indictment, the indictment of
So many indictments.
John Bolton. And I guarantee you,
Bolton.
Adam Smith is probably next. If I'm being honest, like the next rollout indictment probably going to be Schiff. So
You think Schiff? I think it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be Smith. I think it's Schiff might be, but I think because Schiff is currently in a position of power. If you notice that, I mean, Letitia James is as well, but she's not in Congress. So I think maybe, perhaps.
maybe we'll have to see. I know the Justice Department, and I do think that Jack Smith is going to end up getting in big trouble for the bullshit that he pulled with spying on legislators in Congress. I just can't think of any excuse that you would have why that would be ever tolerated. But John Bolton gets indicted on basically a lot of the same things that, speaking of Jack Smith, was going after Donald Trump for, holding classified documents, retaining defense information, the same exact charge that Donald Trump was held on, Title 18 U.S. Code 793E, so willfully retaining documents. Now, I'll remind you, 793E, it doesn't matter if you held them willfully or negligently. The law is still the same, regardless.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as it is misplaced out of the skiff, you lose chain of custody, that's a problem.
Well,
So-
it's simple. If you don't know it's wrong to do something, it doesn't completely remove you from the consequences of doing that action. If I were to, murder somebody and I didn't know murder was illegal, I still will face punishment for committing murder.
Yeah. I mean, and this is a 27-page indictment. I won't read the entire thing. I'll just give the summary of what the DOJ laid out for us. I would read it, but I know people would get bored. A federal grand jury returned an indictment today charging former National Security Advisor John Bolton with serious crimes related to the mishandling of classified information. The indictment charges Bolton with 8 counts of transmission of national defense information and 10 counts of unlawful retention of NDI. There is one tier of justice for all Americans, said Attorney General Pam Bondi. Anyone who abuses a position of power or jeopardizes our national security will be held accountable. Nobody is above the law, which I think is a really interesting quote because this was exactly the quotes that Democrats.
It's a jab. It's an obvious jab. I love it. I love that it's backfiring. And I love that.
Yes, this is again was the logic the left was using while they were locking up all of their political opponents is nobody's above the law, right? So Democrats aren't either. So make sure before you go running around indicting all your political opponents that you don't have any skeletons in your closet because it's going to come back to haunt you the next
Well,
time you lose power.
it's also really adorable when you had Donald Trump and his lawyers being got attacked by weaponization of the Department of Justice. And then the Democrats want to pretend as if Donald Trump started this. No, Donald Trump didn't start this. This isn't Trump starting this. This is reactionary. This is the pendulum swing that's happening here. So I know they're trying to gaslight and they're trying to say, oh, Donald Trump's going after his political opponents. Are we just supposed to ignore the fact that the Democrats went after not only Donald Trump but everyone who surrounded him? Are we supposed to just ignore the fact that Donald Trump had his home in Mar-a-Lago raided? Melania's underwear drawer ransacked and ran through, his son's bedroom ran through, and are we just supposed to ignore what they did to Donald Trump? Is that what they're hoping, that we're just going to forget what they did to him? That's insane.
Absolutely. And just so we remember, Hillary Clinton never got arrested. Hillary Clinton never got a mugshot. Even though Donald Trump campaigned on locking her up, she never got locked up under the Donald Trump administration. So
Because he knew the precedent would. He knew exactly what kind of precedent that would set. And that was one of his
absolutely.
biggest mistakes. Is he should have just everything's in hindsight, right? But that he knew what that would mean. It is that it would cause this constant back and forth. We'll lock you guys up, then when we take power, they'll lock them up. It was a horrible thing to do, and he or Donald Trump being a smart man, despite whatever the Democrats want to say about him, he knew what that would mean. He knew that if he were to go after Hillary, that they would come after him. But little did he know at the time, they went after him anyways. He let
Absolutely.
Hillary slide, and then they said, "Well, this guy, we hate him so much, we're gonna go after him anyways. Don't worry, I will bleep that out."
Absolutely. So let's dive into the FBI's finding. They did raid his home not too long ago. So the FBI's investigation revealed that John Bolton allegedly transmitted top secret information using personal online accounts, retained said documents in his house, directed violation of the law. Said FBI Director Kash Patel, the case was based on meticulous work from dedicated career professionals at the FBI who followed the facts without fear or favor. Weaponization of justice will not be tolerated, and this FBI will stop at nothing to bring justice to anyone who threatens our national security. Keeping Americans safe has always been and always will be top priority of the U.S. Attorney General's office for the District of Maryland, said U.S. Attorney Kelly O'Hales for the District of Maryland. If anyone endangers our national security, we're committed to holding them accountable. The FBI is committed to protecting classified information to keep Americans safe. Anyone entrusted with this knowledge takes an oath and has the duty to safeguard it. The charges alleged in this indictment demonstrate that there will be consequences for those who will violate this responsibility. The indictment alleged that John Bolton illegally transmitted NDNI by using personal email and messaging application accounts to send sensitive documents classified as top secret. Just reminding you, Hillary Clinton did this exact same thing with her emails, and James Comey came out, said to everybody in the briefing that she not only sent but received top secret information also while she was in enemy territory.
Yeah, and we actually don't know the entirety or the entire story to that because all that information or a lot of that information was destroyed. We had staffers, her own staffers, destroying servers, cell phones, and everything else. So we're not entirely sure all the information that she was sharing. It's impossible for us to know.
Well, and it's kind of rich coming from John Bolton because he had a really different energy about this when Donald Trump was getting indicted. He went out on CNN and said this.
Will have to prove it, then he has committed very serious crimes. This is a devastating indictment. I speak here as an alumnus of the Justice Department myself, because not only is it powerful, it's very narrowly tailored. They didn't throw everything up against the wall to see what would stick. This really is a rifle shot, and I think it should be the end of Donald Trump's political career. We'll have to prove it.
Which
Ridiculous.
I don't think that aged well because
No.
at the very end he says, I think this is the end of his political career. I think that this indictment had the opposite effect. I think that the American people saw this for exactly what this was, is purely the Joe Biden Department of Justice attacking their political opponents in the middle of an election. The fact that this is happening while Donald Trump is on the campaign trail running for office, and he not only survived this, but crushed it and goes on to win the popular vote, just goes to show how unpopular this move really was.
Hugely unpopular. And I was listening to him saying this, and I think it's just again, I want to reiterate, this is just so poetic. It's just so poetic
Poetic
that this
justice.
man, it really is. I mean, this is just absolutely incredible to watch John Bolton sit there with a straight face and go after Donald Trump for something that he himself is doing. And you got to remember, he was a security advisor, right? He had no actual privileges to be in possession of these materials. But Donald Trump was the president at the time, who actually has the discretion to unclassify all these documents. He could just simply say, "I want these documents unclassified." It's not a very complicated matter as being the president of the United States. And going back to that as well, when Joe Biden was the vice president, he as vice president didn't have any sort of authority to have all the documents he had in his garage. And they didn't want to go after him because they thought he was just, not mentally all there, and he was just an old feeble man, essentially. So this is just absolutely beautiful. I couldn't have written this better myself, truly.
And the same thing for Letitia James, right? Letitia James accused Donald Trump for lying on a bank application for a loan. And surprisingly, she gets caught with her pants down doing the same thing on her house in Norfolk. So again,
Yeah,
I think
wait. Didn't she make her father her husband or something?
allegedly.
Was that the
allegedly.
The paperwork showed her father she was as penciled in as her husband, which is
Yes.
interesting.
She's also facing the forfeiture of that house because of that. So that'll be very interesting to see play out. So I'm looking forward to this. I did enjoy watching Bolton be, walking in to turn himself in. This was just comical for me.
Oh, I love it.
Ambassador Bolton, do you have any comments, sir? We read your statement last night. Any comments?
Sorry, that was a bit loud. I'm going to replay that.
Ambassador Bolton, do you have any comments, sir? We read your statement last night. Any comments?
They referred to him as ambassador. Is he currently an ambassador? Don't you think it's more proper to call him former?
Probably. But
Yeah, of course.
the media kowtows to, all of the people that they like that helped attack Donald Trump, because the media is obviously no fan of Donald Trump, never has been, probably never will be. But I'm glad that all of these people get a nice, gentle perp walk when Donald Trump and his political opponents didn't have their houses nicely rated. You got Donald Trump's mugshot. I mean, I can't wait to
I
see
love
the
that he has that hung up.
mugshots.
I love
Yeah.
that he has that mugshot hung up in the Oval Office. Absolutely, absolutely amazing. Listen, I've had a mugshot and I became the president. That's the first thing you see when you walk into the Oval Office.
Absolutely.
Also, the good thing for Bolton is that, if I'm not mistaken, while you're in prison, you get to keep your ridiculous mustache. So there you go. At least you get to have that for you.
Absolutely. All right. Now that we've gone over the juicy, juicy indictments, are we ready to dive deeper into what's going on with Don Lemon? Actually, really quick, I wanted to show one video before we transition into roasting the shit out of Don Lemon. Obama did this little video that I thought was absolutely rich, because his hands are not clean either.
Like many of you, I've become increasingly concerned about the rising wave of authoritarianism sweeping the globe. We're seeing politicians target civil society, undermine freedom of the press, weaponize the justice system, and no one is being spared. Even countries that thought they were immune from wholesale assaults on democracy now understand we're all part of this struggle. That's an enormous challenge, but it also means we can learn from each other. I recently sat down with 3 leaders who are part of the Obama Foundation's alumni network to discuss their work in Hungary and Poland, two countries on the leading edge of confronting autocracy. People like Stefania, Sandor, and Susanna, they give me hope. And it's why a big part of our mission here at the Foundation is to connect, inspire, and empower leaders like them. All three of you have been fighting the good fight and rising up in the face of significant challenges to try to strengthen democracy. And so you're setting an example for all of us in the United States, here in the UK.
Democracy is something to be practiced regularly. We need people to be engaged and to be empowered for them to feel the ownership of the country, that it's theirs,
Right.
and not to give it away to someone.
That was just a whole lot of nothing. I mean, democracy is these people are just, this is all a photo op. That's all that was. That was just a moment to put some faces into some spotlights. Nothing tangible was actually said there. Just a bunch of nonsense.
Well, the ridiculousness of Obama talking about the weaponized Justice Department is absolutely fucking laughable, seeing the things that James Comey was doing, the protection of Hillary Clinton, the scandal that happened with Benghazi. I think that's the most laughable thing I've ever heard from Barack Obama. But what was even more telling is that why is he still trying to influence foreign policy? You have the two people he was talking about are doing work in Poland and Hungary. I find it really ironic because Obama had a heavy hand in influence in Ukraine during the Euromaidan that was happening, the revolt against Yanukovych. They played a huge impact. Not only that, but you had Joe Biden that ran over there and got a prosecutor fired for investigating his son Hunter, who was sitting on the board of Burisma. I can't think of something more laughable than a quid pro quo from Joe Biden saying, we're going to withhold $1 billion of funding for Ukraine unless you fire a prosecutor who is investigating my son's and my son's company that he's sitting on the board of, who is, by the way, they were investigating them for money laundering and corruption. And the reason to fire that prosecutor, oddly enough, was that he wasn't doing enough to investigate. And so right after that prosecutor gets fired, the investigation into the board of Burisma closes.
Incredible. And it was really bold of Joe Biden to go on stage there too and brag about this just so openly. Just openly bragging about his input and the corruption and saying, if you don't fire this prosecutor, you're not getting the amount of, I don't know if you want to call it bravery or just stupidity. I would argue stupidity to just go on camera in front of all those reporters and just brag about this. It makes no sense.
Well,
I can't understand that.
Well, and imagine that Donald Trump faced articles of impeachment for a quid pro quo in Ukraine for less than what Joe Biden did. I can't think of something more corrupt than that. Yeah, so we're not going to forget that Biden absolutely did a quid pro quo with Ukraine to get a prosecutor fired that was investigating Burisma, of which his son was sitting on the board of. So here's that lovely clip of the quid pro quo.
I was, not but it just happened to be that was the assignment I got. I got all the good ones. So I got Ukraine. And I remember going over convincing our team, or others too, convincing us that we should be providing for loan guarantees. And I went over for, I guess, the 12th, 13th time to Kyiv, and I was supposed to announce that there was another $1 billion loan guarantee. And I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. So they said they were walking out to press conference. I said, no, I said, I'm not going to, or we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said. I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion. I said, you're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a bitch. Got fired.
That is a point blank quid pro quo that had personal interest attached to it as well.
The two gentlemen sitting next to him, did you not notice how uncomfortable they were with this admission of guilt? like if you look at their faces, they're like you can almost feel the tension in the room just like looking at their eyes and their body and the way they're moving around. It's very uncomfortable for them. You can tell.
Well, they know what they're doing is wrong. They know that this prosecutor, by the way, spent over 20 years fighting anti-corruption in Ukraine. He actually created a bureau for anti-corruption to stop things that were going on in Ukraine that were thoroughly corrupt. He did a huge role in stopping corruption in Ukraine. And by the way, he testified in an Austrian court about what happened here and the reason why he was fired. So I'm going to pull up those documents as well. So this was the witness statement from Viktor Shulkin in an Austrian court that he provided under oath, saying what exactly happened with the exchange between him, Joe Biden, and Poroshenko. The circumstances of my dismissal were that I tendered my resignation to the Rada at the request of President Poroshenko. Poroshenko asked me to resign due to pressure from the U.S. presidential administration, in particular Joe Biden, who was the U.S. vice president. Biden was threatening to withhold $1 billion in subsidies to Ukraine until I was removed from office. After I yielded to the president's request and submitted my voluntary resignation, Poroshenko commented about it in the media. He said that I had carried out a colossal amount of work as a general prosecutor, which something none of my predecessors had ever been able to do, especially with regards to my work on reforming different bodies of the prosecutor's office, on creating the specialized anti-corruption prosecutor's office, which enabled the National Anti-Corruption Bureau of Ukraine to conduct legal work on creating self-governing prosecution authorities. The official reason put forth for my dismissal was that I had allegedly failed to secure the public's trust. Poroshenko and other state officials, including representatives of the U.S. presidential administration, had never previously had any complaints about my work. However, there was no grievances against me or any allegations that I had ever committed any corruption-related or indeed any other criminal offenses. Biden later stated anything other than the kind either. Furthermore, all sanctions in respect to Yanukovych and his supporter remained in full force, were not lifted while I occupied the post. Moreover, these sanctions were extended. So not only was there the withholding of $1 billion in subsidies for Ukraine, but they also kept the sanctions in place as well. So financial coercion, which violates Clause 3 of the Budapest Memorandum. The truth is that I was forced out because I was leading a wide-ranging corruption probe into Burisma, a natural gas firm in Ukraine, and Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, was a member of the board of directors. I assume Burisma, which had been connected with a gas extraction, had the support of the U.S. Vice President Joe Biden because his son was on the board of directors. On several occasions, President Poroshenko asked me to have a look at the criminal case against Burisma and considered the possibility of winding down the investigative actions in respect of this company, but I refused to close the investigation. Therefore, I was forced to leave office under the direct and intense pressure from Joe Biden and the U.S. administration. In my conversations with Poroshenko at the time, he was empathetic that I should cease my investigations regarding Burisma. When I did not, he said that the U.S. via Biden refusing to release $1 billion promised to Ukraine, he said that he had no choice, therefore, but to ask me to resign. When Poroshenko asked me to resign, the way that he put it to me was that he was making it for the good of the country and that I should agree, also with an act of patriotism. I agreed to tender my resignation on this basis. After my dismissal, Joe Biden made a public statement saying, even bragging, that he had me fired. This is when it became clear that the real reason for my dismissal was my actions regarding in Burisma and Biden's personal interests at the company, which demonstrated by the following. A, it was Biden's order which that I be removed from office, not Poroshenko's decision. B, the reason was because of precisely the state of officials from the U.S. administration of President Obama and Joe Biden in particular, who were telling the heads of Ukraine law enforcement system how to investigate and whom to investigate, including members of Yanukovych's regime at the time. I was not complying with their will in respect to Zvolsky in particular, who was a minister under Yanukovych, so I had to be removed from office. It was not Poroshenko being patriotic. It was Poroshenko submitting to the demands of state officials from the U.S. administration of President Obama for reasons of political economy and the personal interest of the U.S. Vice President Joe Biden, amongst others. So
Just the most blatant corruption I think I've seen. In what way, or sorry, in what fashion was this perceived otherwise? I'm really confused when you look at the American media, when you look at the U.S. Mainstream media. How did they paint this? Did they even say anything at all? I don't
no.
recall.
No, actually, the media came out and defended the decision, saying that it was justified to get Shulkin fired. Their excuse is that he wasn't doing enough to investigate. Yet, quietly behind the scenes, the investigation into Burisma Holdings, which had been going on for years, even way before Shulkin picked up the case, suddenly and quietly got closed. There was never any rulings about what happened at Burisma. It just quietly went away. And again, the U.S. administration was heavily influencing, in my opinion, what was going on at the Euromaidan and the overthrow of Yanukovych, who got in there democratically for a second time. Remember, the first time Yanukovych won, the Orange Party had a Orange Revolution, kicked Yanukovych out after he ran a runoff, declared that the election was invalid, and then hosted another runoff election to where the Orange Party ends up getting back into power. The second election, Yanukovych wins again, undeniably so. They can't deny that he won that one. So they waited until Yanukovych pushed back against a trade deal with the EU and said that that was the reason why it was okay to have a coup against Yanukovych. And then you wonder why Russia is looking at Ukraine going, well, you just had a elected official in office that was choosing to do trade deals with me. Suddenly he gets couped out of office twice with heavy influence from the United States, which, by the way, again, violates the Budapest Memorandum, Clause 3. So...
Yeah, there's a lot to take away from that when you look at the whole Russian thing. And I was thinking about this while I was actually in your live, when I had seen that Donald Trump said Russia should have won this war in 2 weeks, right? Or I believe he said 2 weeks, but we're years into it now. So I just get your thoughts on this. Do you think from that statement, because I know we have to address this because it's popping up all over social media, that seems as if Donald Trump was rooting for Russia. Do you think that's what he was meaning by that, or do you think that he was just making a point that Russia is supposedly so powerful that this should have been done much quicker, and this is the way I perceived it. It should have been done much quicker, and he was trying to highlight the fact that Russia is a paper tiger. That's the way I was perceiving it.
I think my opinion on it is that if Ukraine wasn't being propped up with the amount of money that the European countries are propping them up with, if they weren't getting money and arms from the United States government, that this war would have been over in 2 weeks. Clearly,
Easily.
They do not have the funds nor the equipment to actually fight against Russia. And to be fair, Russia is playing soft hands with them, because if they wanted to completely clobber Ukraine, all they would have to do is just use one submarine. They could destroy Ukraine in a heartbeat. They have not. They've actually been pretty soft with them, to be honest, for the amount of equipment that they have. They have equipment that could fight with us. So
that being said, though, we have over 1 million Russians dead, and this is just estimates, but you have 1 million Russians dead. Why do you think this is just a classic Russian technique of cannon fodder, or do you think that or do you think that Russia is actually well, this would actually play into it. So it's the way I see it. Let's just rewind just for a second. I think this is cannon fodder, and on top of it, I think that Russia has been perceived to be this gigantic war machine. In reality, they actually are this paper tiger. I actually think that Russia isn't as strong as people were claiming they were for the past 30, 40, 50 years. I think that they are wildly ill-equipped when it comes to actual warfare. And I think World War II is a good testament to that, or a good showing of that, because if you look back to World War II, and you had Russian soldiers picking up rifles of dead comrades because they didn't have enough guns to supply to all their soldiers. So you've seen soldiers run out on the battlefield, pick up a random gun off the ground because they went into the battle without a gun. I think this is classic Russian propaganda, personally.
I think that Russia has taken some advice from China, if I'm being honest. China plays an economic game. China plays something called Go. It's a more advanced version of chess. And they like to cripple their enemies financially. That's how they choose to attack people. So I think Russia is actually taking a page out of their playbook. Just having us spend so much money, running through so much equipment. Okay, so like remember, NATO outside of us is operating on Cold War era equipment, and NATO allies in Europe are giving them equipment. So they're just giving Ukraine equipment. Russia's kind of crushing that equipment. And so I think that Russia realizes we're spending a lot of money on this. So he's kind of financially draining our European allies and then trying to do a financial drain on us while really not taking that much of a hit more than what they were already getting on sanctions.
Yeah, it's a war of attrition, and I understand that, but it's when you look at the documented casualties between Ukraine versus Russia, Russia is 100% taking way more casualties. I don't think, obviously, this is they don't really care about Russia does obviously care about its own people, but that I'm just saying that it seems very interesting that Russia, if they were supposed to have so much military might, I'm not saying obviously they can just drop a nuclear warhead on Ukraine, right? They can turn it into glass, but like obviously they want to maintain the land. If you drop a nuke, the land becomes completely useless for forever, essentially.
I mean,
Forever.
they wouldn't even have to do that. They could just use tomahawks. They could just launch the same way we did to Iran. We just launched a shit ton of tomahawks from a submarine in an undisclosed location and just goodbye, Ukraine. I mean, they could do that.
Yeah, it's true. I just think it's interesting. And why is Russia so willing to just let so many of their own people die? That's where I find it to be. This is classic Russian warfare tactics. It's cannon fodder. Just deplete their resources by throwing bodies into the front line. But it's very strategic. You got to see if you look at the maps. I mean, the land bridges, the Donbass, it's all been completely taken over. They basically have everything they wanted. They have Crimea, and Crimea wasn't even really a takeover under the Biden administration. I want to remind people, it wasn't really a takeover. I mean, there were already Russian forces there. They had an entire the sea line was completely controlled by them. All they did was turn around and say, "This is ours now." I don't think it was. Did anybody end up getting killed during the Crimea takeover?
Well, the Crimea takeover happened during Obama's administration,
Right.
2014. They kind of inched into Crimea. The Donbass region was starting to kind of push forces in there.
Right.
And I think they wanted that location for a specific reason. There's actually agreements between Russia and Ukraine on the use of the seaports that lead out to the Black Sea in that area. Specifically, I think it's a strategic location for Russia militarily to have unfettered access to that. That's just my opinion why they chose to
Well,
go
also
into Crimea.
movement of oil. Yeah, also movement of oil as well
Yes.
through that region. So yeah, it is definitely both. But the Crimea, the annexing of Crimea was obviously very little. I don't think there was very little. I don't recall seeing anything of people being killed in mass. It's almost like they just turn around like, this is ours now. And so I thought that was interesting. You go back to Obama and he says, "There's not, wait until I'm in office. There's more. There's more I can do once I actually become president." To go back to that when he was talking to Vladimir Putin. Back, I believe, in
100%.
2008. Yeah. Very, very volatile region. I remain quite split. I see people in the Ukraine saying, "Listen, we're ethnically Russian. We want to be a part of Russian." I've seen other Ukrainians saying, "No, we're independent." I remain very divided. And from what my knowledge now is that the U.S. is supplying or is selling weapons to Europe, and then Europe is then giving those weapons to Ukraine. Am I correct on that?
I think it's a little bit of both. We have straight up in Donald Trump's first administration, by the way, I'll remind you, Obama gave Ukraine blankets and some aid packages. Okay. Donald Trump came in, gave them javelins. So completely different take on helping Ukraine. So we actually started giving them equipment. We gave them money. We gave them funds. Europe is giving them the same amount of funds. They're helping them secure loans with the World Bank. I mean, this is, we've given Ukraine a massive amount of help. I honestly think it needs to end. Either Russia needs to finish the job and stop drawing it out, or at this point, I don't even want NATO to go in there because it's going to be turned into a huge fucking mess.
You made a good point earlier. You made a really good point earlier. I think that them drawing it out is obviously hurting us economically, or has been under the Biden administration, is that they were trying to deplete us as much as possible. So this could be a strategic maneuver by Russia to draw it out, forcing us to, run out of not just equipment, but just money, just drain us
Debt.
over time. I think it's a long-term game.
Yes.
I think the point you made earlier made complete sense, actually. I personally didn't really think of it that way, but it does make complete sense.
Yes.
To completely cripple us.
This is what China does. Okay, like very clearly, this is a page straight out of China's playbook. And I just want to remind you, like China, Iran, and Russia were doing naval operations together in 2020, and they've continued to do so ever since. Russia has given Iran access to radar systems that they provided to them. They were also having Russian scientists assisting them in their nuclear program. China gave Iran access to their satellites, so they're able to use their military satellite equipment. So Russia, Iran, and China have already been kind of together, exchanging information, exchanging strategy, practicing strategy. And I think that Russia personally got the long game from China to just strap us financially. We are on a fiat currency, so the more money we spend, the more debt that we're going to acquire. Europe doesn't have a lot of equipment, so straining NATO of not only equipment but money. I mean, this is a long game that they're playing here. So the only way I see them out of this is just withdrawing all aid and military equipment from Ukraine, letting Russia take Ukraine, and then waiting for Russia to trudge into a NATO country, because then you would invoke Article 5, and that would be the end of that.
Well, we got the Article 4 once happened under Biden, the initial attack on Ukraine. And then it happened again just recently as well. I think we went back, or I made a point about war of attrition. So yeah, this is just depletion. This is classic. This is just classic warfare style. Mm-hmm. I mean, this isn't anything exotic. This is a very classic way of operating. But yeah,
I think
we'll see what happens.
I think they're preparing for a possibility. I'm not saying it will happen, but a possibility of if they enter into World War III, because China has got the Panama Canal under their thumb. They have, if they were to take Taiwan, then they would control certain naval passages in that area. And so China could quite literally, if they did it right, could throw down barriers to which would really halt our military from transporting ships one place to another. They would control choke points that our ships would have to go through. So that's why it's important. That's why we'll never let China take Taiwan. The fact that they even have any input on Panama and the canal down there is egregious. I think selling that was a mistake by Carter. But
100%. But we got. Let's move on to this Don Lemon thing. I think that, I mean, obviously we could talk about this forever because there's so much history there. Yeah, we could talk about the Budapest Memorandum, the violations. There's so much to go over, and China's involvement with Taiwan and their constant their weird flexes. I know we have ships down there, and it's a very volatile area. So, anyways, let's push on to the Don Lemon thing, and because I think it's a very interesting take from Don Lemon. When I say interesting, I will say concerning. I think it's a very concerning thing for him to say.
Well, and Democrats, I'm not even going to call them liberals because I really don't think that they are truly liberal. I think that they still maintain the standpoint of the Confederacy today, which is still a conservative standpoint. It's just interesting to hear them get on board with the Second Amendment, back to state rights again, rebelling against the Union. These types of standpoints were standpoints of the Confederacy, pushing back against tariffs, states' rights, 2A, rebellion. This is point blank the same talking points of the Confederacy. So here's Don Lemon crashing out.
Black people, brown people of all stripes, whether you're an Indian American or a Mexican American or whoever you are, go out in your place where you live and get a gun legally, get a license to carry legally. Because when you have people knocking on your door and taking you away without due process as a citizen, isn't that what the Second Amendment was written for? Go back and read what the Second Amendment says. And perhaps it will knock some sense in the heads of these people who are saying, well, it's all great. I don't believe they're doing it without due process. They're asking people for papers. They're not really beating people up. These people are doing things that are illegal. Nobody is illegal. It is a misdemeanor to cross the border. Now, black people.
Okay. So much to go over here.
I didn't even know he had a lisp like that until I just heard him speaking.
Yeah, I have so many comments about his list, but towards the end there, I thought that was interesting. But I think it's really interesting. We're seeing Democrats actually advocating for the Second Amendment. I couldn't agree with them more. The first portion of a statement, the rest was ridiculous, but the first portion is that if you are a citizen of the United States and you can lawfully purchase a firearm, I think it's great. I think you should. I'm a 2A guy. I love the idea that you could do so. But his messaging as to his reasoning rather to purchase a firearm is to combat the U.S. federal government is very dangerous. And when he talks about due process, there's so much I want to go over here. It's hurting my brain. This entire statement's ridiculous. But when we talk about due process, the process includes asking for your papers. That's part of the process. Due process is just lawful processing. That's all it is. It doesn't. We're not talking about judges. We're not talking about lawyers. But there's a process, and asking for one's papers is a part of that process. That is due process. So I think it's silly that he made that. But I think it was an obvious mobilization or a call for mobilization to combat our federal agents. I think that was blatant. I think it was very clear. And I want to give you guys a quote from Don Lemon back in 2012. At least one of the quotes. There's many to go over, but one of the quotes is he stated, "It doesn't matter that gun violence is down. We need to get guns and bullets and automatic weapons off of the streets." That's a really interesting thing to say. And yes, I understand this was like 13 years ago. And there's examples that are more recent of his anti-gun rhetoric. It's really interesting that all of a sudden he's now pro-gun, and many Democrats have all of a sudden became pro-gun, and not for the reason of self-defense, not for the reason of the constitutional reason. It's because he's trying to encourage his side. Let's just be honest. It's the Democrats to start killing or attacking our federal agents. I think it's very obvious. I think it's blatant.
I absolutely agree. I think that the worst part of this is that we just had 3 attacks on ICE facilities within the span of a few months. You had not only detainees that were unalived, but you had the luring of agents out of the facility using fireworks in a strategic attack to try to kill them with a 5.56. It's just insane that we're seeing this kind of level of attacks on the federal government from people who clutch their pearls at J6. I'm just amazed that they're not clutching their pearls at pure acts of rebellion. You're seeing Gavin Newsom cheer on rebellion. You're seeing J.B. Pritzker cheer on rebellion, saying that not only are they cheering it on, but they're leading a resistance against the federal government. I thought that this was insurrection, seditious behavior. Enrico Antario, the lead of the Proud Boys, is sitting in prison for 22 years for J6, but you have Don Lemon, governors of states that are advocating against attacking federal agents, calling them Gestapo, calling them Nazis, comparing Donald Trump to Hitler, painting this picture of 1930s Germany, hiding behind the face of anti-fascists, calling themselves anti-fascists while they're calling for political assassinations. You just saw Charlie Kirk get shot in the neck, and within like not even a week, they're still calling for more violence. It's absurd.
It's absolutely absurd. And what's really interesting to me is that the left isn't viewing this in a proper light. What they're doing is they're trying to justify. Actually, they don't even have to try to justify, because the mainstream media and the modern Democrats are actually encouraging this. Because when you start calling somebody a fascist, you start calling people Hitler, and you call the ICE the Gestapo. You know what that's going to do. You know what it's encouraging people to do. And I want to go back. Let's go back to Don Lemon. Back in March of 2021, something more recent. The Second Amendment doesn't require us to submit to a lifetime of mass carnage. Don't play good guy with a gun for your campaign ad while Americans are dying. Again, he just advocated, he was claiming, or telling people to go buy guns because you're the good guys. Go buy guns. Everything, this guy is just pure hypocrisy. I don't think anyone really matches his level of hypocrisy. So guns are bad when they have them, but they're good when my team has them. This is the same antics what you're saying, like the Antifa, right? We're part of the good boys club, and anybody who goes against us, you're the bad guys. And we can't do anything wrong because our label, we're the good guys. That's our title. We are the good guys. And anybody who opposes us are the bad guys. And it doesn't matter what we do, because, guys, we're the good guys. This is the same thing. This is the same rhetoric that the Antifa people use.
Well, and it's amazing for me to see that the people that are calling themselves, quote unquote, anti-fascist never are out there protesting actual fascist regimes. You never hear them talking about Kim Jong-un. You never hear them talking about Hamas. You never hear them talking about the King of Jordan, even though they don't support kings. At the other time, you have the Prince of Saudi Arabia. We're not hearing anything about fascist regimes, China, Russia, none of that. I'm not seeing any protests in response to any of these people while they shout free Palestine. You just had Hamas line up their own citizens in Palestine and systematically execute them in front of their own people. There was no
over accusations.
There was no protest from the people that are anti-fascist. The irony of people in the United Kingdom doing the No Kings protest aimed towards Donald Trump while they literally have a monarchy. When is that revolution coming? I'm just so curious. I don't think it's coming.
Going to highlight what you were saying about what happened in Palestine when they're executing these individuals, they were justifying their killing based off of the way they feel. There's no evidence. There's nothing. This is definitionally, this is definitionally fascism. And yet these same individuals, these supposed Antifa members, are the same people who are championing the Palestinians and Hamas. They're the ones who are championing their side when they're literally rooting for fascism.
Absolutely. Well,
exactly. It makes no sense.
Well, and to point out the recent hypocrisy of Jay Jones, which I think we've all heard about Jay Jones at this point, and I'm going to pull up the text messages so we can see the nasty, awful, vile things that Jay Jones has been saying. You also saw the Young Republicans came out and they had their group chat that was leaked. The difference between Jay Jones and Young Republicans is that Jay Jones is currently running for the highest prosecutor's office in the state of Virginia. He wants to become the Attorney General of Virginia while advocating to kill Republicans, kill their children, and kill Jews. Still running. Tim Kaine was asked about this, the senator of Virginia, if he would disavow it. Did not. Nancy Pelosi was asked to disavow this. She did not. She said, it's up to the voters. Then Abigail Spanberger was also asked about this. She's about to become the governor, possibly, in the gubernatorial race for governor of Virginia, she did not disavow this either. It's absurd to me. And Jay Jones got read to filth on the debate stage when his opponent called him out for this. He said, it's astounding to me that you aren't so embarrassed that you didn't concede to this race and drop out. Insane. I'll bring up those messages in a second here.
Now, while you bring up those messages, yeah, you see all these Democrats who are coming out saying, "Oh, these young Republicans, their age is 18 to 40, whatever," right? And this is an exposed group chat, which, by the way, I completely condemn what a lot of these individuals are saying. Fine, I can do that. I'm capable of doing that, recognizing stupid behaviors, stupid conversations. But I challenge most of these people who are saying, who cares about Jay? These people are obviously racist. I challenge most, if not every single person who's making this little pearl clutching moment. I challenge them to submit your DMs for the last 7 months, whether it be on Signal, WhatsApp, your text messages, your whatever. Submit all of them. All of them. I want to see every message that you have posted.
You're asking for the moon.
I'm asking for the moon because these people are hypocrites. They know no, exactly. They're never going to fucking do it because they're incapable. They're aware that they are being hypocrites. When you say something, a lot of things in confidence, whether it be a joke or not, you're going to say some shit. You're going to sometimes say some shit. And the truth is, all these people are guilty of saying some things that are very, wild. We'll just say wild. And they like to pretend as if they're perfect. They've never committed any sin. They never said anything inappropriate in their lives. But you know damn well that's what they do. But because these people are exposed, they jump all over it, because this is not about being offended. This is not about being upset. This is about political points. They don't give a shit. They don't give a shit about any of these things. They really, truly do not. They just want to win, and they will do and say anything to win.
Absolutely.
And that is exactly why they won't. And in certain times they won't say certain things because they know it hurts them, and that means condemning Jay Jones and his rhetoric, or not his rhetoric, but his obvious desire to kill his political opposition and their children.
Absolutely.
How hard is it? How hard is it for political or Democrat leadership to be like, this is horrible, this guy should drop out of the race?
You're asking
this
too
isn't
much.
just some stupid off-color joke. Yeah, obviously this isn't some crazy dumb off-color joke. No. This is a direct desire to kill the political opposition. And they're just like, you know what? I know the guy. He's fine. We're still friends. He apologized. Okay, that's fine. But can you at least condemn what he said? No. We have a problem here. We have a humongous problem here of hypocrisy.
Absolutely. And I'm just going to remind you, like, killing your opposition is a key pillar to fascism. It's much easier to maintain power when you don't have anybody pushing against you. And so I find it absolutely ridiculous from the Democrats that say that they hate fascism so much, while at the same time cheering for their political opponents to be killed. And it seems this happens every time that they lose office. Once they lose office, it's all of a sudden like we have to, cause violence and chaos all throughout the country. They say it's Donald Trump who's the chaos. It's Donald Trump. It's the amount of absurd riots that have to be thrown out there because the Democrats do not have power right now. And this is a huge loss for them. They don't have the judicial branch, they don't have the legislative branch, and they don't have the executive branch. 3 branches of government that they have completely lost control of because of democracy, not because anybody took it from them, democratically won. And so I just don't think Democrats really actually like democracy. But I'm going to jump into Jay Jones's text messages here. Maybe kind of difficult to read from here. Let me see if it's possible for me to zoom in. Inspect. Nope, not that. Nope. 1 second. More tools? Magnify option. Okay. Here we go. Now I can zoom in. Perfect. Okay.
Fancy
Schmancy. All right. You weren't simply asking questions and you know it. I genuinely was, said Jay. I wasn't attacking you. I was trying to understand your logic. You weren't trying to understand. You were talking about hoping Jennifer Gilbert's children would die. Yes, I've told you this before. Only when people feel pain do they move on policy. There isn't. I point blank asked you more than 3 times, and you dug in that you meant it. I honestly am questioning a lot today. Jay replies, I mean, do I think Todd and Jennifer are evil and that they're breeding little fascists? Yes.
Jeez.
They say nice things about everyone, lol. Jay responds, if those guys die before me, I will go to their funerals, piss on their graves, send them out awash in something. Jay Jones. 3 people, 2 bullets. Gilbert, Hitler, Pol Pot. Gilbert gets 2 bullets to the head. Spoiler, put Gilbert in the crew with the 2 worst people you know. He receives both bullets every time. Jay, please stop. LOL, okay. It really bothers me when you talk about hurting people or wishing death upon them. We're talking about this man is running to be the highest prosecutor. He will be the one indicting people on crimes while advocating to kill his opponents, kill their children.
Well, think about what that means, though. I mean, that means that he will, if anyone has any sort of right-leaning ideologies at all, he's going to go full hard. He's gonna put the gas pedal down all the way to the floor in order to make sure that these people who are politically opposed to him get the maximum sentencing, and people who are aligned with him, he's going to give them a pass. Right? It's very obvious. He's going to give people who align with him politically a gigantic pass, which is not how the law works, or not how it should work. So you have 2 individuals who commit the same crime. He's going to do everything he can possible to make sure the person who has a right-leaning viewpoint on the world to serve the most time in jail. That's what we're going to see. That's exactly what he is going to put out there.
I would be absolutely disturbed to have someone being the highest prosecutor in my state saying things confidently with no shame, laughing about this, planning this out. These would be things that people would normally get in trouble for saying. You're creating a conspiracy to unalive somebody, going into detail about it. Somebody's telling you, stop, this is inappropriate. And he keeps going. This is, by the way, Tim Kaine, who is the senator of the state of Virginia, absolutely dodging like the Matrix, questions about whether or not he's going to withdraw his support for Jay Jones.
Senator, do you still support Jay Jones? You do. What do you think he should drop out of this race after those comments? I just answered your question. You have concerns about what you saw?
The comments are completely indefensible. I've known Jay Jones for 25 years, and those comments are very much out of character for him. So if I put the comments, which are clearly beyond the pale, against knowing this guy for 25 years, I'm still a supporter of Jay Jones. What do you think about
Look at the reporter's face, utterly disappointed.
And by the way, a Democrat reporter at that. But this is what we're seeing, though. If you went back 10 years, these people would drop out. If this scandal were to happen just 10 years ago, these people would drop out, and everyone from both sides of the aisle would say, "Yeah, this is insane." I think we'd come together and say, "Yeah, this is condemnable. Nobody can side with this type of messaging." But what's happened now, if you look at the Democrats' point of view when it comes to political violence, when you have over half of the party deeming it to be, from polling, deeming it political violence to be justified, that's very concerning. This is what the everyday modern Democrat Party is okay with now. This isn't just your fringe left. This is the modern Democrat Party. They are comfortable with political violence.
100%.
That's why you got that response.
100%. It's not that hard to simply just say, that's awful. He should immediately drop out of the race. But the problem is that Democrats care more about their people maintaining power because they're in such a shit political position right now. You just had the assassination of Charlie Kirk, and now you have one of their candidates running for office calling for more people to be killed. It's not a
You
good
got to
look.
remember, Millie, we had people, not just fringe leftists, but everyday people from doctors, lawyers, teachers, and everyday individuals celebrating Charlie Kirk's death. So this is just more reinforces my point that I was trying to make, is that this is what Democrats are now. They're 100% comfortable with political violence, no matter what no matter what it takes to get their agenda across. They are willing to support and or conduct the most horrific acts of crime possible. They don't give a shit. They just want to win. That's all they care about. And even if that means killing your opposition. And it's been more and more clear as time goes on. From Charlie Kirk being murdered, all the videos and all the posts that have come out to Jay here is stating that he wants to put 2 bullets in the head of his political opposition, and he's totally comfortable with his children being killed, and not a single peep from the Democrat leadership condemning this. This is very clear. The Democrats have become insanely violently radicalized.
Well, the Democrats keep spouting this bullshit about a party switch. I think it's absolute garbage. I can't wait to do a podcast on the party switch to debunk all of it. They are still advocating for the same things the Confederacy does. And that comes with going against the Union and anybody that supports what the Union supports. So again, not only Tim Kaine was asked about this, but former Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi was also asked about whether or not she would condemn Jay Jones. And then we'll get into Abigail Spanberger, because she also just dodges this on the debate stage multiple times when she was asked about it as well. So here is former Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi.
A scandal over text messages in which he, the Democrat, said that the GOP Speaker of the House of Delegates should get 2 bullets to the head for how he paid tribute to a former moderate Democratic lawmaker who died. He has apologized. Should he get out of the race?
Well, that's up to the people, the leaders in Virginia. They have said he has apologized. What I understand is they say that on balance he's the better person to be Attorney General. But that's up to them. But I wish there would be enough fuss of all the times that people have said they were going to put a bullet in my head right in public, in the public.
A scandal over text messages.
Show it. Show all the messages of these people saying they want to put a bullet in your head in public. Show all of those messages. I went to her Twitter account after this. I didn't see, or her X account, I didn't see a single post, a repost, or a screenshot of this accusation. And if there was a screen post, I know damn well that myself, you, and many Republican leaders would 100% condemn these actions and probably go after these people for making these, especially if it was a direct threat. They would go after these people. We wouldn't just sit by and celebrate political violence. We wouldn't do it. We just would not do it.
Absolutely not.
And I know. Sorry.
No, and I absolutely agree with you. My problem is that their response to all of this was to say, oh, well, it's up to the people. But you are the leadership of the Democratic Party. You're the leadership of the state. Tim Kaine is the senator of Virginia. The woman running for governor couldn't even do it either, Abigail Spanberger. And she was asked about this on the debate stage as well. And it was damning, like just her response to hearing it. And the moderator was up her ass, just asking her over and over and over again.
Shout out to that moderator, though. She really
held her to it.
Exposed her for what she is. And one of her first excuses was that, these messages were from several years ago. Okay, what does that matter? You're not engaging with the actual question. That's the problem. Like, the time itself isn't necessarily important. Yes, if you went back like 20 years, I get that. We can have that argument. But this was just a couple of years ago. Like, what are we doing here? What do you mean? Engage with what she's asking you. Why are you trying to pivot onto time frames? That's so strange.
100%. So this, just really quick, this was her response to it. While she was on the debate stage.
Jones. 3 people, 2 bullets. Gilbert, Hitler, Pol Pot. Gilbert gets 2 bullets to the head. Spoiler, put Gilbert in the crew with the 2 worst people you know, and he receives both bullets every time. Colleague. Jay, please stop. Jones. LOL.
Look at her
okay,
face.
Okay. I mean, do I think Todd and Jennifer are evil? And that they're breeding little fascists? Yes. Colleague. You were talking about hoping Jennifer Gilbert's children would die. Jones. Yes, I've told you this before. Only when people feel pain personally do they move on policy.
Crazy. And her response was pivot, pivot, pivot. I mean, we can play all the responses, but the fact of the matter is she never just told him to drop out. She never condemned anything that he had said. She didn't, if anything, it felt more like she was supportive of it, but she was too afraid to say it.
100%. And it gets even more brutal for her because, again, this is the video, I believe, of the moderator that was just grilling her.
Thank you, Ms. Bamberger. I didn't hear an answer there on the endorsement issue, so I want to just make sure. Will you continue to endorse Jay Jones to be the next Attorney General of Virginia? And were you aware of these text messages before they released? You have 30 seconds.
In fact, it appears that it was those who released the text messages and held them for years. So the public was unaware who had knowledge of these text messages for many years.
What did you do about it?
I learned of these text messages the day that they came out, and I denounced them as soon as I learned of them.
She denounced this murder.
And importantly, at this point, as we move forward, the voters now have this information that was withheld for them.
You're running
presumably for
Ms.
political
Earl-Sayers,
reasons. But the voters now have the information, and it is up to voters to make an individual choice based on this information.
Ms. Bamberger, I understand what you're saying about the voters, but for you yourself, do you still continue to endorse Jay Jones?
to the fire.
15 seconds, yes or no?
We are all running our individual races. I believe my opponent has said that about her lieutenant governor nominee.
Ms. Earl-Sayers,
and it's up to every person to make their own decision. I am running my race to
Well, make
serve
your decision.
Virginia, and that is what I intend to do.
What
Thank
was your
you,
decision
Ms.
on your endorsement?
We just want to clarify, what you're saying is
Not
that
let her off the hook.
as of now, you still endorse Jay
I gotta
Jones
say,
as Attorney General.
I'm saying as of now, it's up to every voter to make their own individual decision. I am running for governor. I am accountable for the words that I say, for the acts
and your words that you
I
said was
take,
endorsement.
for the policies that I have put out.
Thank you.
I am responsible for the policies I put out and the work I will endeavor to do tirelessly for the people of Virginia.
Thank you, Ms. Bamberger.
That was brutal.
It was brutal, but actually, what I think is really interesting is that I think that the moderator was trying to give her as many opportunities as possible. I realized they gave her credit that she was holding her feet to the fire, but I think the better way to look at it is that the moderator was trying to give her every exit possible, every chance possible. Please, for the love of God, condemn this individual. Just do it. I'm giving you every bone. I'm throwing you every bone possible, and you still refuse to do it. And now that I think about it, because I didn't think about this before, she did it so often. It was very obvious that the moderator was trying to help her. She was trying to help her, and she refused to take it. It was crazy.
I think they all got the same talking points, if I'm going to be honest, because Nancy Pelosi answered this almost the exact same way. The talking point, it's up to the voters. No, but I'm asking you as Democratic leadership, you're also running for office as governor. Revoke your endorsement for this man. It is the most simplest thing that anyone could do, but the Democrats are so afraid to lose footing anywhere that they will simply they just can't do it. It's so bad for them politically right now. And
it's top down. It's top down. This information is descended from somewhere. I don't know where, but you've seen the videos where you see Democrats all unilaterally say, not unilaterally, but they all just it's almost systematically. They all say the same thing. They're holding their little lapel mics. They're holding them in their hands. They're like, this is blah 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 blah, and someone's holding their phone. Yeah, it's 100% manufactured. None of this is organic. This is 100% manufactured.
Yeah. So the cope from not disavowing Jay Jones, that Politico came in, and I think they were just holding on to this hit piece for a while, because I think they've been looking at this for a minute. This didn't just come out of nowhere. I think they were just waiting for the right time.
October surprise.
Yeah, to drop these group chats. And so I think in a way the media slid in and was like, hey, I know these text messages from Jay Jones are absolutely awful. I know he's running for public office, but here are these random young Republicans that are, making jokes about Hitler, making jokes about gas chambers, watermelon people, were some of the things that they said.
Yep.
And I can pull up their messages as well.
Well,
But
yeah, it was obviously time to counteract this, but not maybe necessarily this in particular, but it was an October surprise counter, just in general, whatever were to come up against the Democrats, we are prepared to go after the Republicans with this thing. And I don't think they really equate. I don't really think they do.
So the Democrats, Politico did a hit piece on the young Republicans where they got their group chat messages, and here's some of the comments in all fairness to what they were saying. Everyone that votes no is going to the gas chambers. You're giving nationals too much credit and expecting the Jew to be honest. Are you going to do whatever it takes? When do we start bullying, dude? Boom, they're dead. It was rape. They love watermelon people. Stay in the closet. I'm not going to say that word. F word, you fill in the blank. You know what it means. He also hates the Jews. This girl is fully, I don't know if you can say the R word on YouTube, but I'm not going to say it.
Play it safe, yeah.
Yeah, they love the watermelon people. If we ever had a leak of this chat, we would be cooked for real, for real. Well, surprise, surprise. Kick the bitch. I'd go to the zoo if I wanted to watch monkey play ball. I'm ready to watch people burn now. When do we bring that side out? Great, I love Hitler. Also, we're under consideration for a Trump endorsement. So these were just a few of the things that was said in this
if you
group
notice that
chat.
some of these things if you look at some of those messages, it was like they were just grabbing things randomly because they were talking about 7 months worth of messages, and obviously some of those comments are bad, but they're completely also removed from context. When you say "Great, I love Hitler," that comment was referring to a person gaining power, and he viewed this person as being so far right that he was making a joke, a sarcastic joke that, "Oh, great, I love Hitler." It was actually going against Hitler. When you actually read these things in context, the pages are fully accessible to the public, and there's a reason why they made a collage and they didn't actually put any of that into context. Now, obviously, some of those messages, even in context, are horrible, and I completely think they were stupid and childish and just outright disgusting. But if you do put some of those in context, it's actually not nearly as bad as they're trying to frame it. If you look at the headline of Politico, they're saying that the first thing they put in there was "I love Hitler." But if you look actually at the context of it, he was saying that this person is so far right. "Oh, great, I love Hitler." It was out of sarcasm. So they're being extremely disingenuous in how they're presenting these messages. Extremely. When saying like we should kick that bitch or whatever it was. What's the context of that?
Yeah, exactly.
Where's the context?
I think a lot of these are taken out of context, and then some of these remarks are just blatantly just completely
Horrible.
condemnable. I don't believe Democrats for a single fucking second on them being outraged about Jewish hate. They have been literally campaigning on Jewish hate. They couldn't even bring themselves to make Josh Shapiro the VP nominee for Harris. Simply because he's a Jew. They won't openly come out and say it like they did with Pete Buttigieg being gay. But they know the optics of the pro-Palestinian movement on their side of the aisle that absolutely hates Israel. Now all of a sudden they somewhat care about Jews and the optics of Jewish hate and anti-Semitism. I don't think they actually give a shit. But the young Republicans came out. They did this, letter of recognition. They did it, which is good. I mean, like, listen, Republicans can condemn their side of the aisle when they do things that are wrong. This is what makes us better than the Democratic Party. It's that the Democratic Party could literally call for your blood in the street, killing children, which we already knew that they supported because they advocate for abortion. But not only do they advocate for killing children in the womb, but they also advocate for children outside of the womb. But here was the Young Republicans board of directors said, "We are appalled by the vile, inexcusable language revealed in the Political article published today. Such behavior is disgraceful, unbecoming of any Republican that stands in opposition to values our movement represents. Those involved must be immediately resign from all positions within their state and local young Republican organizations. We must hold ourselves to the highest standards of integrity, respect, and professionalism. Board of directors for young Republicans.
Listen, where you and I are going to probably disagree here is that I think this capitulation, this bending the knee to the opposition is a horrible, horrible take. Whoever wrote this, in my opinion, should actually be fired. And I say this because we're always expected to take the high ground. We're always expected to take the high road. And meanwhile, the Democrats never do. They claim that they do, but again, we just went over the fact that they can't even condemn and call out their own side when it comes to advocating for political violence. So why are we always required to take the high road? Why? I don't get it. This is why I think this letter that was posted, this response that was posted was completely spineless. And this is just telling of the Republican Party. One thing I hate about the Republican Party is they bend the knee and they capitulate constantly. You cannot do this with these people. These people do not care. These aren't good people. And if you're going to try to meet them on their level, actually meet them at their level. Their level is not up there. It's not. Their level hasn't been up there for decades. The Democrats will do anything and everything if it means they can maintain or gain power.
I think that's kind of like Matt Walsh's take on it, because I've listened to Matt Walsh give his take, and he kind of shares the same view you do. I think in the long run, the Democrats, if you just put the skillet on the stove, they will pour the oil and they will stir themselves and cook themselves to complete obliteration if you just give them enough cooking oil to do it with. And that's what they're doing right now, because we have to be the normal people of society, okay? The left is going so far to the left that they look actually fucking crazy. People that I know that were leaning Democrat for the Charlie Kirk assassination, watching people online call for more people to be killed, people I knew that leaned that direction were like, I'm getting flack from my own party for simply just saying I don't want to see people killed and politically assassinated. So let the left continue to be absolutely buck wild and fucking crazy. Let them do it, because as long as we are the party of normal people that are just regular everyday people that don't want to watch people get killed, the answer isn't for us to go all the way right, okay? The answer for us is to be so middle ground that we continue to have people come from the Democratic Party to the party of normalcy. That's how we got Elon Musk. That's how we got Joe Rogan. That's how we got RFK. That's how we got so many people that left the Democratic Party, because we are now just normal. We are the normal people.
I hear what you're saying, and the way you put that, it does make complete sense. It's really hard to play the good guys when the people we're constantly combating are always taking the most insane positions. And it feels like I'm constantly ducking and dodging and weaving through this weird modern Democrat Party, and I can't. I do agree with what you're saying, is that we need to be perceived by the middle, because in elections, the left is going to vote left, the right's going to vote right, and what they're trying to capture is that center, that 20% in the middle,
yes,
and pull them to your side. So I do get what you're saying. It's just sometimes it's just really frustrating to me that we're expected to play nice when all they're doing is being completely disgusting, left, right, and center. It's hard to want to play that way.
That's absolutely
but I get
valid.
What you're saying.
That's absolutely a valid feeling, and I think many of us were fighting the urge to not just want to burn the whole thing down after watching Charlie Kirk get shot in the throat. I think many of us were fighting the urge to be like, you know what, fuck it, let's have a civil war, let's go kick the shit out of them for what they did. The problem with that, okay, and you have to take a page out of China's Go, which is their version of chess, it's a long-term strategy. Short-term, if we go buck fucking wild, go fuck up the Democrats, they will take that, turn it around, weaponize that with the mainstream media. Unfortunately for us, in the long-term game, we have to be normal. We have to be the normal party. This is why we have to condemn the Groyper community when they do crazy shit, because see, we can condemn fucked up shit. We're not calling for this. You see them, they're being fucking crazy. Let them cook themselves because they will do it all on their own. They don't need any help fucking themselves over politically. That's how we were able to get the judicial branch, the legislative branch, and the executive branch, because they were prosecuting political opponents. They were silencing people. They did do all of that fucked up shit during the pandemic. The American people are not stupid. They saw this. So if we go to the extreme because they are going to the extreme, we look just as fucking crazy as they do. And all of the independents are in the middle are like, I'm not going to vote. Both of these people are fucking crazy. I'm not
Well,
voting.
we see the shift, and maybe because I'm chronically online, I'm perceiving this thing a little more radically than I should, but yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean,
feelings are valid.
it's
Those are
just
valid
hard.
feelings.
It's hard.
Valid
it's hard
feelings.
because you see, these aren't just everyday Democrats. This is the Democrat leadership. These are these people who are already currently in the positions of power, who are unwilling to condemn the most heinous fucking things imaginable. They refuse to, and that just really blows my mind. And yet we're supposed to still maintain this level of decency. It's rough. It's hard. And I see your point. And yeah, listen, I hate to say it, but you have convinced me. I hate to say it.
But
listen, let's move on to this last segment, though. Let's move on to this last segment.
I want to say
because we need
one more thing. One more thing. Okay. Podcasting is going to be the future of news. People like you and me that will end up being, hopefully in the future, very huge political influences, have to be able to condemn stuff like this and be the news for people, because our side of the aisle doesn't trust mainstream media. We know this. They don't watch mainstream media anymore. They look to people like Joe Rogan. They look to people like Benny Johnson. They look to people like Tim Pool, Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens even. She's fucking out there. But eventually, maybe down the road, people will look to you and me. And so we have to kind of set an example for that, to be normal, to convince people not to go to the extreme, because then they will end up like Reuters. Then it will turn into, well, what am I going to vote for? A douche or a turd sandwich? We don't want to be the turd sandwich. We just want to be normal. That's what the goal is for me.
Well, that's important too. That it's two of us, right? We're not just screaming into a camera and a microphone outside of our own lives. And even then, we don't do that because we engage with our opposition directly on a daily basis. We're in the trenches outside of this, where it's just you and I talking. And obviously, you and I are going to agree on most things, but there's gonna be moments where we're just simply not going to agree on some things, and we're going to have a little back and forth. And that shows the differences between the Democrats and us, is that we're willing to have our differences, hear each other out. Listen, you just heard me. I just bent the knee to your side, and maybe that's a toxic masculinity running through my veins.
Masculinity. But nobody's saying that we have to like these people, okay? Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of the Democratic Party. I don't have to be nice to them, but I don't have to be extreme either.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's move on to this last segment.
All right.
Let's do this.
Fetterman, which one do you want? Fetterman or the Trump Venezuela?
Venezuela Trump, just because it's epic. It's absolutely epic.
Things are.
All right. So I'll let you lead that segment. I've introduced a lot of the segments. I'm going to let you do this one.
Well, Donald Trump on live television dropped a fat F-bomb when it came to Venezuela. And what's beautiful about it is exactly what it is. We had Venezuela trying to bribe our president with money and resources, and he said, nah, fuck that. And I love every bit of it. The answer to your problem is us cleaning up your mess, because your mess is impacting Americans, and Americans are dying because of how horribly you are managing your country. And there's obvious connections to you and your cartels that are in your country, and we don't want any part of that. And money isn't going to fix the problem. What will fix the problem is you sit down, you shut up, and you either correct these things or we'll correct them for you. And I love this. Please, for the love of God, play this segment, this video. It is incredible. I love every bit of this.
Ask and you shall receive.
So do you authorize CIA operations in Venezuela as part of
Well, I wouldn't say that, but some interesting things are happening around the world, I'll say that.
Mr. President, it has been reported that Maduro offered everything in his country, all the natural resources. He even recorded a message to you in English recently, offering mediation. What should we do in order to stop that?
He has offered everything. He's offered everything. You're right. You know why? because he doesn't want to fuck around with the United States. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Love it. He's terrified.
Like
That's
a
why he's
boss.
throwing. That's why he's throwing. Yeah, that's why he's like, hey, we'll give you resources, we'll give you access. Just please, 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 just let us continue to do what we're doing. And Donald Trump's like, no, hundreds of thousands of Americans are dying because of you, because of how you're operating and the way, and we're just not going to stand for it anymore. And we're over it. We don't. Your money, great, nice. We love money, but we you know what we love more? Americans. We love Americans, and we love them. Flourishing. And what you're doing is you're killing us. If we accept a bunch of paychecks and resources, that's nice. Yeah, obviously we like money, but you know what's more important? Us, our lives. I love it. I absolutely love it. I stand by. I sound like I'm glazing sometimes when it comes to Trump. I have a list of things I don't like that Trump has done, but that's not important right now. But this one thing here, I 100% support Trump on 100%. At the end of the day, America isn't just about money. It's just not. America is bigger than that. We are way more than that.
Well, this is the difference between Joe Biden's leadership of being completely passive and Donald Trump, who can sort of play passive and aggressive when he needs to be. So not only, though, is Venezuela responsible for killing Americans, but they're also responsible for killing their own people. I mean, not only do you have people unaliving from the gangs that are operating within Venezuela, but you have people that are unaliving to socialism, actual fascism, yet you never see Antifa bitching about Venezuela. But this is what happens to socialist regimes. This is why you have to be careful. When people talk about the steps that I see that lead to fascism, it almost always comes with the promise of socialism. I'm going to promise socialist things. Everyone's going to be taken care of. The workers owning the means of production. We're going to make this happen. Next thing you know, boom. Dictatorship, no more elections. Or if there is election, there's the guise that there is one, but it isn't accurate. And this is why the person that actually won the Nobel Peace Prize, who was a Venezuelan activist, dedicated the Nobel Peace Prize to, the rebellion going on in Venezuela, but also to Donald Trump. So I thought that was amazing.
Well, I just can't help but think or imagine if Biden were in the same situation, or God forbid, Kamala won the election. It would be, listen, we're currently in talks with Venezuelan leadership, Maduro and his people, and we're just not at the point yet. No, Donald Trump's like, fuck you, fuck what you're offering. You're a horrible person. You're killing. You're not only our people, but your own people. And you need to fix that shit. You need to stop your shit, or we're gonna stop it for you. What an absolute giga chad moment for Donald Trump. What an absolute insane moment, because you know how it would go. Just picture it. You can already picture it. Close your eyes. Kamala Harris is like, we're working with the Venezuelan leadership, and we're working towards a deal. We're working towards a deal. It would just be a bunch of platitudes and word salad. Nothing would be done. It would be months and months and months would pass by. Nobody would be thinking about the region anymore. Meanwhile, drugs are still coming across the ocean. Drugs are still being moved through the middle of Central America, South America, or Central and South America, up into Mexico, and then eventually into our borders. Nothing would be done. Americans would keep dying, and everyone would just start to forget about the impact that Venezuela has on us. They would just forget, because that's just how it would work. And Donald Trump is like, no, we're not playing this game. We're done with Americans dying. We're done with Venezuelans dying. We're done with the region being completely unstable. We're going to do something about it. Love this. I absolutely love this.
100%.
Anyways, guys, that is everything we have for you on this episode. Be sure you hit the subscribe button and check out our next episode, which will be dropping very soon. My name is Unrealness, and this has been Millie. It's been fantastic, and we look forward to talking to you guys in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you.